Right, welcome to FastTrack FBA Journeys. This is a series of videos we are recording of interviews with people on their Amazon journeys. We're looking at people from different levels, whether they be starting today or whether they be selling £1 million. What we're really looking to do is to understand their why. Why did they get into their Amazon journeys? What are their goals? What do they hope to achieve from their Amazon business? And what's happened? How did they start? And what's happened today? And what we really want to do here is to share that information, that journey with you, but also as well looking for those top tips, those little takeaways, those little golden nuggets, those gems, which are going to allow you to grow your business better, learning from the successes, but also the mistakes that we all make in life, and also learning about other people who have done exactly the same things that we've done, or maybe that we're about to go through. So lock yourself in and get ready, because today is going to be a fantastic day. Right, today we are joined with Sam Waniewski, and Sam has been very vocal across all of the Amazon platforms, or all the Amazon Facebook groups. It's been a real pleasure, should we say, to watch his journey, and I've learned, should we say, a lot about what he's doing, and he's very open about where he wants to be, which is about outsourcing and where his business is at, even sharing profit and loss figures, even sharing everything about his business, asking for that feedback, which, to be honest, I think is amazing, and I would recommend anyone to do it because it's how you learn. But hey, I don't want to go on and talk about Sam too much because, hey, you know what? We've got Sam here with us today. So what I want to do is hand over to Sam now and just ask him to tell us a little bit about himself, where he started from, and a little bit about his journey so far. So Sam, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
Sure. Thanks, Tom, for having me on. I've been selling on Amazon for about 3 years now, but just started OA this past January. So the first 2 years I did private label, didn't do very well in that. Probably got out about 4 products. The first product I spent about 7 months doing everything, thought I hit a home run, only to find out I actually paid my supplier in China, and only to find out then when I got ready to list it that it was a restricted item. Thank goodness that my supplier in China gave me the money back, so I was kind of gave me some faith in that, that does work as well for some people, and there are trustworthy people over there. But anyways, I started thinking about, instead of buying 1,000 units of one product, and just going all in and spending so many people think that private label, they just put it on there and that's it, and relax from there and find another product. And it's really not. And so I found that out, quickly. But I started thinking about how to diversify, long story short. And so I thought, well, why can't I get 100 units of 10 products instead of 1,000 of one? And the more I started bringing that down, I thought, this is online arbitrage. And I started really digging into more and more of that. Even though I kind of heard and knew about it prior to private label, but it full swung around and brought me back to online arbitrage. I started looking things up on YouTube like I always do, joining the Facebook groups, and followed some people. Kev Blackburn, I think you're in that group as well. That is somebody that's kind of really inspired me to just kind of really take action, do stuff, do something every day to keep the needle moving. So that's what I did. Starting in January, I try to get things going right away. You mentioned I've put out there on the groups kind of my numbers, and told people, like, look, I'm not killing it like everybody thinks everybody's doing out there. You mentioned about few people say how they're doing. Well, the few that do, those are the ones that are blowing those numbers up, and maybe they do have great numbers, and I'm really happy for them. But there's not too many people that are showing that they've been doing it and they're not killing it. So I've had ups and downs. Originally I started with one partner. I switched to a different close friend of mine partner, kind of like an 80-20 thing. And the more we got going after each one, after about a month, I kind of told him, hey, it just doesn't make sense. And the more I thought what they can do compared to a VA, and I'm sure we can talk more about that, I thought it doesn't make sense for me or them, for the business. And so made a lot of changes, throughout. And so that kind of brings me to where I'm at right now. I'm working on creating a Hubstaff account for my VAs right now to kind of get more organized. And so every day, just trying to figure out how to optimize things, talk to people, use the Facebook groups to really get feedback and improve the business. But that's kind of my story. Personally, I'm a full-time basketball coach at a Division I college out here. And so that takes up a ton of my time. Today I drove 10 hours. I had to drive Dallas and back, pick up one of our players for, tomorrow we start school. Our whole team will be here. So I didn't find that out until about 8 o'clock this morning. That's what I was doing. But it makes the idea of outsourcing things even more important in a lot of ways. Being on the road for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, at a time, sometimes, you can't do everything every day that you want to do. So that's kind of where I'm at. I wanted to kind of find some, I had some money. I wanted to figure out how to invest it in a business that was going to create something sustainable over time and create passive income for me. So that's what I've kind of thought with online arbitrage, to be able to diversify any X amount of products, obviously. I think is what's kind of most appealing to me in a lot of ways that I've been trying to do. So that's kind of where I'm at, Tom.
From me to you, thank you so much. A lot in there, actually, a lot of information. And hey, I think you're very similar to a lot of other people whereby, they're working a full-time business. They're looking at Amazon as a platform to sell on. And, there's so many business models, whether it be private label, wholesale, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage. And they see these big numbers, and and they're like, wow, yeah, I can do that. And then when you get into it, like, the reality is quite a different situation.
Yeah.
And
how many people, don't start to interrupt, Tom. How many people, post their screenshots, right, from Amazon, and few people are really showing what are they really taking home. And so that's one thing I'm learning from you is to really kind of learn your numbers. But that's what a lot of people diving into don't have any idea, just because you see those graphs that's going to bring you home money, and that's not the case in any model that you're doing.
Revenue means nothing. It's all about taking money home at the end of the day.
Right.
Anyone can make money. Anyone can make revenue and lose money. That's easy. You touched upon I think it's like your goal, should we say? You talked about, I think it was like, you've got some money investing that. That's very common. A lot of people have that and they look for investing. And you look for, should we say, you talked about passive income. But, let me ask you, what is your goal from your Amazon business?
I want to basically be able to, use it to, supply my lifestyle so that I can take any job that I want to. I know a lot of people say that they want to quit their job. I love what I do. So personally, for me, it's a matter of, being able to take a different type of job because of maybe the coaching position. For example, I want to be a head coach, maybe at the junior college level, a lower level, which isn't going to pay as much. So can I find Amazon to support that? And now I'm, making as much money, if not more, while also having a dream job that I love doing, that a lot of people wouldn't be able to take otherwise, just because it's a financial situation, even though they might love that career a lot more, So that's what I don't want to hold me back. And so that's what I want to kind of be able to use it for.
Yeah, and I think that's great in the fact that you're so many people look at Amazon as a business model and say, hey, I want it to quit my job. And then it's kind of like, well, then what? What do you want then? Once you've quit your job? For you, is like, I love my job. I love doing that. And I want to supplement that. I want to be able to do more of what I love at the level that I want, because I appreciate that maybe it can't give me the life that I want to live, but I love what I do. And I think that's fantastic. So, well done to you. That's really good. Let's just touch upon the private label side quickly. And the reason why I want to touch upon that is so many people will be exactly the same as what you've done. They will either be at the beginning of their journey where they're now thinking, do I do online arbitrage or do I do private label? So, can we just spend 5 minutes quickly? Let's talk about, your private label journey, what happened, and, and why did you stop, really? I think and why did you move to online arbitrage?
Yeah. Well, this is what I'd say for anybody that wants to do the private label. I think they really do, you either got to have, close to kind of a home run product or different type of invention, or you need to have some sort of brand that you're just so passionate about that you're able to use offline, off Amazon traffic to really create your brand, and you're using Amazon as just an extra platform. So I want to just kind of start with that. I didn't care about creating a brand. So the products I found were not necessarily home run products. I wasn't doing something, totally, and it's a fine line, right? Of, all right, I have a completely innovative product, but it's so new that there's no proven sales out there to compare it to. I'm looking at a keyword of something that sells. I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but you didn't tweak it enough, and somebody comes in and tweaks it way better. And so all the products I kind of found didn't fall into any kind of niche that I enjoyed at all. So creating a brand off that was challenging, and creating more products then was a challenge from there. The first product, like I told you, I found out was restricted. Number one rule: add the product before you do anything else in private label. So you figure out if you're restricted or not. The second product was actually a pretty good product. I ended up not doing the math very well when I included the shipping and figured out my per unit price. And so I had to order way more than I was comfortable with in the long run in order to get that price down. So I didn't continue with that. The third product, I tried to do a bundle that, theoretically was good, but I went for really kind of cheap material. And again, it was a baby product that I just didn't know how to really, didn't care to create a brand off of. And so that kind of fell off as well. And I'm trying to think. I got one going right now. Actually, I got one that I've got about 80 units left, actually, is my last one. So that one has done okay. And so, just speaking of that one, if you do have a decent one going, then what goes into it? Well, how do you get reviews? Well, spending a ton of money to get reviews is almost, what most people do, in my opinion, unless you figured out ManyChat or different ways and you've set all that up, well, that's not just selling on Amazon now. I mean, now you're really digging into how you're going to get these reviews. So that's a whole task in itself that people don't think about. How do you get reviews? And they think it's easy. So that's a whole other thing. Getting reviews, writing a listing is takes a lot of time, and going over it and correcting it. Those were type of headaches I got tired of dealing with and thinking about every day. Instead of just figuring out, can I find 5 or 6 more products today? That's going to make me an extra $5, or am I going to think all day if I'm using the right 1 or 2 words in this listing that's going to hurt my ranking or not? So I think those are some things that people are doing that are trying to do private label don't take into account.
Obviously, you got the 4 products. The 4th one's currently running. Just would you reorder the 4th one?
I don't know. It's a good question. I've kind of got that written down on my list of things to kind of figure out. I had to lower the price on it to try to kind of get it sold out before storage started hitting me. So if I'm taking that into account, my first kind of initial thought was I was trying to get rid of it and just go 100% OA. So that's kind of my short answer without fully thinking it through.
Hey, look, from me to you, thank you so much for sharing that. Everyone looks at private label and goes, oh, I find this product, we all look at it, don't we? Find a dog leash, it's $20 in Amazon, it's $2 in AliExpress. Oh, easy, yeah, there's so much money to be made. But there's so much more to it, and and I completely agree with your point about getting reviews. Amazon's changing the way you can get reviews, and it's changed massively. Hey, there is still money to be made in private label. I'll never deny that, but it isn't as easy as everyone thinks. And the big numbers that people are making are from the people who know what they're doing, and it's not easy.
And the ones that are just going to throw it on Amazon, you're competing with people who've been doing it way, way longer and have way more money to do some methods that, aren't even legal, and are going to hire outside sources to, trash the competitors. I mean, you just can't compete financially sometimes with those guys that have way more money, that have been doing it way longer. They're able to order way more products than you can. They can buy out all of your units and do, dirty tactics that way. So I think those are all things, You talk about the horror stories on those private label groups when people say, they got hijacked or whatever, they put the coupon wrong. They don't allow for one unit to be bought. So they do a giveaway, but not restrict their listing to one per customer. So some people that are dirty will go in and take all their items for a cent on the piece, So those are just some random thoughts that.
And hey, I think the one thing which I look at with online arbitrage, or should say Amazon, is whether you're starting any new business, you are going to make mistakes. Now, when you're doing online arbitrage, you're going to make mistake with $20, $50, $100 worth of one product. Whereas when you're doing it with private label, you're going to make a mistake with $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 worth of private product. And you're like, oh my god, it's the cost of that mistake is so much less. But hey, that's great. And I think, look, my question for you is you've looked at private label, you've done it for 2 years. Why are online arbitrage? What appealed to you?
Yeah, like I mentioned, the diversification, I think, is the main thing I kept thinking about. I thought about it with private label. I looked into people saying, well, get smaller quantities, test out quantities of 100 and see if they hit. And then you got the other experts saying, no, that's crazy. If it does hit, you're not going to make it. So then I just kept on thinking, the more I brought it down, I thought, why can't I, get 3 to 5? And I realized, that is what online arbitrage is, getting it from people in the United States, So that is what was more appealing. Like I said, when I saw Kev's videos and he talked about VAs, I thought, that's hard to do with private label. I mean, they can do some things for your private label, but it's hard to get them to automate, the process. So I wanted something automated, and I thought, even though private label seems theoretically easier, you throw throw the product up, it does its own thing for, in theory, you're spending way more days and time trying to figure out a good brand name and what's the next Facebook post to get some more members for the, so much time I thought was wasted. That if it's not in a passionate area, isn't intriguing in my opinion. So that's what kind of brought me to OA.
Okay, fantastic. And hey, I certainly understand you. Diversification, really spreading that risk, and hey, you mentioned at the very beginning of private label, understanding your motivation behind why you're doing what you're doing. If you're not super passionate about it, that's going to show through. And I get your point about VAs as well. My understanding of private label is you're making small tweaks that have a very big impact, whereas private label is systems, or sorry, OA is systems. So that's good. So before we move into the OA side, let's just really understand where you're at. So just so anyone watching now can understand where your business is at. So tell me roughly, if I can ask you, you've been doing 5 months online arbitrage and your revenue. So tell me last month's revenue and the number of SKUs you've got.
Last 30 days.
Yeah, do last 30 days or last
4,500 to 5,000. I've been around 5,000 in 30 days for the longest time. It seems like I'm at around 20. Does that sound right?
So let's just put it this way. So time on your business. So you've been doing 5 months on your Amazon business. Top line revenue for the last month. So this is just Amazon's revenue as per shown on Seller Central. 5,000 US. And it's only Amazon you're selling on? US?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And how many products do you have? How many different SKUs?
About 100 active right now.
Fine, cool. Fantastic. So that's really good. And I think for me, and anyone listening, it's just really good to get an idea of where you're at, because you have sellers doing 50,000 US a month and you have sellers doing 500 US. So there's a very big difference. Right. When we first started, you talked about this is going to be passive income automation. Can you just tell me about your OA journey, how you started off and how you started systematizing and automating and outsourcing and what happened?
So I started off, like I said, with a partner. Anyways, I got rid of him quick because he just wasn't really as into it. I got another partner. He was into it. But when we hired a VA, her name was Kate, and she was good. And the more we worked all together, I realized she's going to do the same stuff that my partner's going to do for a lot cheaper. Yeah. And she's getting paid like it's her job. My partner was just kind of doing it for fun when he wanted to, some stuff. So I I got rid of my partner and I kind of went with VAs, and I started kind of looking at different ways to get VAs. And I know there's several different ways. I'm sure on onlinejobs.ph. I've used freelancer.com for different stuff. But the most success I've had, Tom, is just going on different Facebook groups, to be honest, VAs. So that's what I kind of would do, is post different. I would try to make like a professional looking, ad for a VA on there, and get the right people kind of commenting, and kind of filter through and kind of hire through that. So I hired a VA pretty quick, and that's part of my issue with my accounting is I know I've kind of, like we've talked about, put a lot of fixed costs ahead of products. So I'd have her kind of doing everything that I couldn't while I'm working. And that's including buying products to buying tools to, anything else I can think of that I need her to do. So that's kind of where we're at now with it.
So that's really good, and actually I think it's really interesting the fact that you got partners in there and realized, oh my god, actually I can get my VA to do this cheaper. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't recommend people to get partners unless they have something that the other can't bring to the table, or know something that the other doesn't know that they can bring. But
yeah. And you mentioned it's just touched on the VA side there. Most of my VAs I find through onlinejobs.ph, and you're saying you're actually finding better VAs through Facebook groups. Is that right?
Yeah, and I don't know for sure. I know it seems like there's more to choose from because obviously it's free for them. So I guess I've gone that route, and I've had good enough success that I haven't tried to go back to onlinejobs.ph. But I did have some good candidates from there, but it always seemed like when I had the subscription going, I did postings on both. And it seemed like I would go with the other, somebody from the Facebook group.
Oh, wow.
I've had 2 different senior VAs. One I'm still with right now. Other ones I've kind of switched through just to get different sourcing VAs. And so that's kind of where I'm still testing, 2 VAs. Now I'm kind of trying to get them testing almost against each other, like I think we've kind of talked about, and to kind of see which one can manually source better, and almost do that consistently until I get them better and better, or find better ones.
How many VAs do you currently have right now, and what do they do for you?
Right. So my senior VA, her name is Lady. She's been with me the longest for about 3 months. After Kate, Kate, I initially hired, and I realized, we didn't really agree on the price for longer term. Then we've gone through probably 4, maybe 5 or 6 different VAs on 1 to 2 week trials.
Okay.
To find somebody to manually source. And we've had TA, technical arbitrage, for maybe in March, and then we got rid of it again, and then we added it last month, and we just got rid of it. We're going to get rid of it this month. So it's a process, obviously, and that's what anybody needs to, know going into this. The current other VA we have, his name is Joaquin, and he's been pretty good. He's been with me about a month. I'm now brought in another VA to kind of go against Joaquin sourcing. I told him last week that this was going to be the last week on this whatever month that it's been. And I said, I got to think about if I'm going to be able to continue. And I think everybody needs to know that from my experience, all but one, I'd say VA has been really understandable when I tell them I got to go a different direction. They don't act. I'm sure they're upset, but they don't try to be harmful in any way to any accounts that they might have access to, in my experience. And they understand when I tell them I might not be able to hire you. Well, I might also be able to hire you, so they don't want to ruin a relationship either.
And if I clarify, at the moment you've got 3 VAs, 1 senior one, and 2 sourcing VAs.
That's correct.
And your concept is, it sounds like you've got 1 existing sourcing VA, then you've got another sourcing VA starting, and you're competing them against each other. And is that like, then you're going to keep the one, or will you continue that and then hire someone else and keep going through that cycle? What's the plan?
Right. So let's say Gail sources more than Joaquin. If it's significant, then yeah, I think I'll go with her for the time being, for maybe a week or two, and then at the same time continue to post on some message boards and see if I can find somebody else who thinks that they're really good at manually sourcing. You know, okay, we'll try you on a week period, and at the same time, I'll let Gail know she's just on a 2 week period. So she's not going to be upset at the end of 2 weeks if she's not on board anymore. She'll get paid just like I told her she will. So that's kind of my plan until I guess I max out and nobody can beat my best manual sourcer.
Hey,
is
cool.
my plan.
And so the idea is very much you are trying to find the ultimate VA or the best VA, and you're not settling for, oh yeah, this is the best one, but you never know, there might be someone 10 times better out there. Constantly keep looking.
And the better ones supposedly are charging more, so do you take a chance with, paying a little more to see if they can produce better? I think that's something I'll look into as well.
And would you do that?
I think so, depending on how the conversation went throughout. I'll ask them several questions. How do you start your search? What are you using? What have you used before? I think you can get a lot of questions initially. That doesn't hurt to go into a 1 week trial to figure things out, especially the rate that they're charging. If the low ones are $1.75 an hour, and the higher ones, it seems like, are $3 an hour. So it's not going to kill somebody to, I think, take that risk.
So that's really useful, and I think really good to know, like, testing VAs, evolving, moving on, and also as well, thank you for sharing like the kind of prices that you're paying as well. You're saying $1.75 for the low end, and then you're saying up to like $3, maybe a little bit more for the topper end. And it'd be interesting to see, what your results are from hiring that, price per deal sourced, cost per deal sourced. And that's fantastic. It's good that you know those numbers as well. Like, really well done to you. Like, that's the important thing. Yeah. Look, so many people are going to think about, okay, so I'm sourcing myself. I want to outsource to a VA. You've been back and forward through tactical arbitrage on, tactical arbitrage off, with VAs. So, why have you done that? And why have you stopped tactical arbitrage and started it again? And what advice would you give to other people in the same situation as you?
Yeah, I think tactical arbitrage seems maybe easier than it is. Obviously, it's not hard to run it. It is hard to find, as many products as some people think that they might find, especially initially. I'd say, I don't know. Do you know, Tom, if they still have the 30-day free trial?
Don't off the top of my head, no.
But I know they used to. So, I mean, if somebody's going to do it, I'd say start off with that, as well as watching every single video you can before you purchase it, so that you don't waste that money. So I didn't really do a ton of that, and then, to be honest, I wanted just a VA that was going to run the entire TA for me, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time learning it myself. And so it's hard to make sure with anything that your VA is doing the right thing if you don't know what you're doing. So I wasn't studying TA. And kind of like what we talked about, you don't know if your VA couldn't find you just as much manually as they're going to find on tactical arbitrage. So that's kind of what I'm also testing out now. Joaquin, he thinks he can find close to the same amount as he was on tactical arbitrage. So I'm like, well, that's great. We'll get rid of it, and we'll see. I think to anybody that's going to, get it, I think they need to really, really study it, need to have kind of a strategy going in. I'm not saying I won't, go back at some point, but the main plan, I think, is $100 a month, and I'm going to focus on getting higher profit until I, at least until I'm making a lot more money, and I have a VA that proves they can get a lot more products on there than we can manually, I think. But if you're not going to have a VA manually do it, and that's your best way to do it, then that might be the best situation. But for me, Tom, I wanted to outsource everything as quickly as possible. I work my full-time job. There's days I don't want to do anything. So I want my VAs to figure it all out. And that's kind of my plan going in, was to kind of spend the upfront money to try to figure it out. So that's what I'm doing now is kind of get rid of the TA, see what we got manually. But TA is definitely tricky, not for everybody. Definitely got to learn it.
Definitely, yeah, and I completely agree. You invest this money in sourcing software, and you've got to understand it. And can I ask you know, how are the results going? So let me ask you the question: how many deals per day or per week are you buying now manually versus what you were buying with TA?
We officially are going to, kind of start this manual thing tomorrow,
Okay.
oddly enough. But we've been going with Joaquin. He was getting around 10 to 15 that he would find on TA. And then, like I mentioned on my post, the problem is we want to make sure everything is continue to get filtered. And I do trust my senior VA to filter everything. So she's got access to BuyBot Pro. She's got, whatever she needs. And she'll be the final one to kind of go through it. I don't even look at the product. I trust her that much. She'll check it all. So she'll tell me at the end of it, okay, we've found 15. She'll tell me what was wrong or right about every single one. She'll go into TA with the notes that Joaquin wrote, and she'll write a note underneath his notes about what's right or wrong. So if I ever want to check, that's what I'll do to double check. I'll do it maybe once a week if I'm bored. But out of those 12 to 15, maybe 4 or 5 of them have IP alert, a program that I'm sure you're aware of that helps us make sure we're not buying products that we're going to get attacked by the sellers from later on. That's the worst. And so out of then you got 8 or 9, and she might go through and after adding certain shipping costs that maybe weren't accounted for on TA, it's just not right enough. So now we're down to 6. And then to be honest, Tom, we've had some purchasing problems. So she'll text me at the end of the day and go, hey, I need help ordering these 2 products. The card didn't work for some reason. So we've had little kinks like that I think a lot of people, especially hiring VAs, don't take it into account of. I've had several, changing your, adding a VPN on your computer for the VA that people don't think about. I had for the prep center, ordering somewhere, sending it to the prep, and having it declined because my card didn't have the prep center address was a hitch that took me 3-4 weeks to figure out why we couldn't get our credit card to go through. Is it the VPN? Is it what is it? So even now I'm having to talk to her about certain websites. We're putting in the information wrong, whatever. So those are little things. So to answer your question, we were doing about 3 or 4 per day at the end of all of that. And then obviously it's got to go to our prep. We just switched preps about 3 weeks ago to a non-tax, tax-free state prep. So we're saving money on there. I was happy about that move. And so, anyways, yeah, we're doing 3 to 4, and now I'm hoping to do, 10, ideally 10 to 15 that Joaquin and Gail will find. So that's, between 20 and 30, and from there, maybe Lady buys 10 to 15 of those, products is what I'm hoping. So that's kind of my target that I'm shooting for.
Okay, interesting. And hey, look, I think so. If I clarify, it sounds like you're thinking that your VAs manually sourcing are going to be roughly comparable to what you're going to get from TA. Is that right?
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I hired Lady, originally her job was just to manually source. And she told me she did not have TA. She found about 10 to 12 products a day manually sourcing. So I've almost I've told her, well, maybe I need to just have you do that all day instead of the rest of your work. But she does find 2 or 3 herself that she puts on there, as well as kind of her other duties, which I'm still determining if they are fully worth the amount I'm paying her for. But
Yeah.
that could be a whole other story.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, I think that's super interesting, and the fact that you're paying $100 a month for tactical arbitrage, and you're getting the same outcome manually when you're doing it as the other guys. I'm not saying exactly, and it'd be very interesting.
Right.
I think look from us, keep us updated in a month's time, and when you look at the numbers, but whenever you see Amazon FBA and online arbitrage, you always see, right, what sourcing software can I get? What automation can I get?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to spend on these shiny objects. you go, actually, look, you can do this if you can do this without half of these tools, and it's easy to spend the money, but it's harder to keep the money and make the profit.
Right.
And that's what we want. But thank you for your honesty. I think that's really, really eye-opening, and I think definitely anyone who's got sourcing software, challenge it. Is it adding value to your business, and then prove it. Like generally prove it's worthwhile spending the money on it. I appreciate everything that you've told us, and hey, look, really interesting. Some advice there, top tips on VAs, sourcing, looking to save some money. So, let me ask you the question, really. So, if anyone is coming into the Amazon online arbitrage business model or business, looking to exactly the same as you, working full time, wanting to outsource from day dot, looking for VAs to do everything from sourcing, purchasing, sending to prep centers, the whole shebang. What advice would you offer them?
Well, I think that you got to first kind of, answer, do you have more money or more time? And I don't have that much money, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do, that strategy. Not that you have to have one or the other, but you got to decide which one you're going to kind of go all in with. If you've got more time, then I'd say spend it doing RA first and kind of getting your feet wet with a lot of RA. I didn't want to do that. And so I've thought about that. I might do it later, but again, I wanted to just spend the money and try to get it all figured out, manually with VAs. So if you've got the money, then like we talked about, hiring VAs through the Facebook groups, I think is good. But then there's so many resources that don't cost money, YouTube groups, the Facebook groups, that people don't need to, overthink it with too many programs. And so I think learning, quickly, but then applying things daily as well. I'm sure we all know those people that just watch YouTube videos all day and don't ever try to apply the method. So I try to catch myself all the time. Like, all right, I've learned, I need to start doing stuff. So doing things daily, moving forward daily, but starting with RA and then looking manually online at different websites. But that's the thing, Tom, is I never spent time manually sourcing myself. I try to figure out the tools. I'll tell you, what I did do. I I guess this is manually sourcing. I don't know how much they use this in the UK, but coupon arbitrage. Are you familiar with?
I know the concept.
Yeah. So I initially kind of got that going. That's what me and my partners started. I said, this is an easy way to just get it going. And so we did that. And that's kind of what I used my partner for. I had all items sent to his house. He could do the shipping. I wasn't doing that either. So I did use him for that. After that, I figured, well, you're not going to be my prep center. So that was a mistake, long story short. But as far as, that's what I kind of did to get going. I don't, without getting into it, I don't recommend anybody who does coupon arbitrage. That got me into a bunch of IP claims. I would say start manually sourcing right away. See about hiring a part-time VA for, like I said, $1.75 that's going to work 4 hours a day for you. Whatever that math isn't going to be much, and tell them that they're on a 2-week trial, and just communicate with them daily. Like you mentioned, if they're working full-time, then they don't have a ton of time to do things themselves, but they might be on their computer at work and they can hit up their VA and say, hey, look into this program, look into that program. I mean, it's just a great ability for to be able to tell your VA, hey, we're switching prep centers. Look into all the best prep centers that are tax-free, figure out a list, put the notes together, shoot me it, and within a week tell me, the best one that you think, and I'll double check it. And it's done. And she, did a great job. So I think you can find them for very cheap, and people that are, experts in their field, that maybe that was my thing still, is that I don't spend time manually sourcing, but somebody from one of these VAs might have done it for years now. And so that's where I think, people can find a lot of, quality, just ability with what they can do outsourcing things. So that'd be my recommendation, Tom, for people to get started.
Fantastic. And that's really good. So thank you so much. And while we've been talking, I've been taking some notes. So what I'll do is just quickly talk through everything that I've picked up on, some top tips. You do the great top tip, which I love, is look at Facebook groups versus online jobs. You found some of your best VAs from Facebook groups, which is really eye-opening. So great. Set the expectations with them and be really open and honest. Communicate with them. Set trials. You don't have to hire them for life. It's like, be honest. And I love the fact that you just talked about using your VA to support you in your business. I.e., go find me a new prep center. Here's the criteria. Document them all and then tell me which one you come back to. I really like that. And also as well, when you're working with VAs, expect the unexpected. So use a VPN that's going to help you transfer their connection through to the US or the UK, wherever. Card issues always come up. I really understand that one as well, whether it be prep center purchasing, but also, outsourcing, but not just the VA, but using a prep center as well. That's fantastic. You talked a little bit about sourcing. So we talked about tactical arbitrage, and your advice there is, if you're going to get this sourcing software, take the time to learn it. Like, you've got 30 days free trial, use it well. Don't just kind of jump in. It's like, you've got to really understand this, because this has got to add value for you. And it's a big investment. My God, if it's $100, that's like, a VA working for you 2.5 hours every day, manual sourcing. So you've got to make sure it's adding more value to you. So ensure you know what you're doing so you can challenge your VA when they get results. Have a strategy. I love that. So many people just do this like, oh, yeah. But no, you've got to think about what you're doing and understand the impact of that. Understand the impact of manual sourcing versus software sourcing, and is it worth it? And I kind of wrote here, cost per lead purchased. Is it valuable? And really looking at your different, number of deals you're purchasing per week, and that's really fantastic. And then other top tips you said take away is analyze if you have more money or time, and also coming back to your private label, understand your motivation, like really understand why you're doing this, and don't kid yourself. So it's not really going to work for you. And I love the fact that you were quite honest about that. You also talked about diversification, spreading your risk. If something goes wrong on private label, bang, that's a couple of $1,000s out. Whereas if it goes wrong on manual sourcing, you're losing tens, maybe a couple of $100s. Very different. I love the fact you're honest about coupon arbitrage. We don't really do it so much in the UK, but I love the fact that it's IP complaint central, which is really dangerous on your Amazon account. So thank you so much for giving that information. And then also as well, always challenging your costs. And I think there's so many businesses out there, and we see it on Facebook, Amazon revenue. Oh, I'm doing so much money. Like, that doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. It's how much you take home. Challenge your costs. And I love that. And I love how you're constantly evolving your business, learning every day. So really good. And thank you so much. Final last two questions. What does the future hold for you, Sam? Where do you want to be?
Well, I'm looking to continue to do a lot better than I'm doing right now in OA. One thing I'd say too is for people to not get, what it's called, the shiny object syndrome, and start looking at a bunch of different strategies. I did private label for 2 years, and then I made the switch. So I said I was going to stick with this for a year, and so that's what I'm continuing to do, and trying to make consistent monthly profit just with OA, and systemizing that. And then I'm looking to see about adding wholesale. Cool. I thought that would be kind of the next step potentially. I've even looked into wholesale drop shipping. I don't know if you've looked into that at all, or if you do that, but those are some of the things I've looked into, maybe for next year or in 2 years.
Very nice. That's good. And finally, so if anyone wants to get in contact with you, maybe ask a few questions, what's the best way?
Anybody can hit me up on Facebook. I respond within 24 hours on there.
And hey, the thing I would say is I love your openness about your journey, where you're coming from and where you want to be. And I've never seen anyone sit there and really share so much. So, hence the reason for this call, this video today is, I love that. I generally thank you so much for that, because, hey, it's about honesty. And so many people are sharing, I'm doing $1 million. You're like, no, man, like, this is reality. This is like, right. You're doing it, and you're doing it as a full-time job. And I love that, because so many people are going to be in your situation. So, for me, Tom at FastTrack FBA, and anyone watching this video, can I just say thank you to sharing your information, your journey, and also the top tips, like generally some really good little things in there, which, I'm going to learn from, and so many other people are watching. So, thank you so much, Sam. It's been a real pleasure talking to you today.
No problem, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic.